came across a post the other day that I just want to address because I get sent these kinds of things about the deadlift, especially since I'm a big proponent of it. And there's just a big, I'll call deadlift fear cult in the in the fitness training, healthcare industry, and they say a bunch of wild stuff sometimes around the deadlift. And this is just one I wanted to address. So came across this post as somebody had sent it over my way, and it summarizes everything wrong with the modern fitness and rehabilitation. And the argument is something like this: if you deadlift, before you start, you should seek a physical therapist to evaluate your entire body before you begin a deadlift program. Because according to this person, you might have some weak abductors. You might have some sort of hidden imbalance. Perhaps there's a dysfunction right around the corner that you didn't know about. And that one day, that tiny little flaw that you didn't have evaluated before you decide to start picking things up at the gym explodes into a disc herniation. Then you're screwed, right? And this all sounds reasonable on the surface. It sounds like you're giving caution to people. It sounds like you're being a responsible trainer, healthcare provider, but there's no evidence to support any of this. And the injury rates on training are extraordinarily low, even in people that have deadlifting in their programming. And we're talking like 1 to maybe 4, depending on where you look in the literature, per 1,000 hours of training. So it's extremely low risk compared to even running, which carries extremely high injury rates per 1,000 hours comparatively. So this entire argument rests on the idea that your body is very fragile and it can just explode at any moment, and that somewhere inside you there's this hidden imbalance you're not aware of that's just waiting to destroy your spine, just hiding in the closet, waiting to pop out. And unless you find an expert that will find this before you start deadlifting, there's just doom on the horizon. And that's not how our bodies adapt to anything. Humans are asymmetrical, period. Everyone has them, everybody. There are differences in strength side to side. There's differences in how well a joint moves side to side. There's going to be differences in your structures, differences in how everybody moves. And research has spent decades trying to find these magical imbalances in people that will predict an injury. And the results are overwhelmingly disappointing in that category. Most injury prediction models are based on movement screens and asymmetries, and these these research studies perform terribly in that category. And people adapt, and they're not symmetrical. And even if they're asymmetrical, they can adapt and train and be just fine and never be injured. So this is where most people get things backwards. The deadlift isn't dangerous because of the loading it places on the spine. The spine is supposed to be loaded. That's literally what our spine was evolved to do for us. The dosage is the problem. How you program, how you progress, whether or not you are helping the person or yourself manage the loading across your training cycle. That's where you stay safe. And a recent review on these low back injury prevention deadlifting challenged a lot of these traditional beliefs surrounding deadlift technique and injury. And these people concluded that injury risk is better understood through how the people are managing the load over their cycling, how fatigued they are in a session, their exposure to training as they've progressed, how well they're prepared. Those are the things that end up mattering, not this obsession with perfect positions and the pursuit of some flawless deadlift technique that doesn't exist. And there's definitely fear of the spine moving, which is also unfounded. These strongest predictors of injury have nothing to do with lumbar flexion. They have everything to do with rapid increases in the workload that you're doing. And let's get into my favorite part. That someday, it's a favorite part of this post in particular, is that if you didn't go to a physical therapist to find all these secret imbalances and start addressing them before you deadlift, one day you will be trying to pull 405 pounds from the ground, and suddenly this imbalance will lead to a herniated disc. And that's not at all what the evidence says. And even if that does happen, guess what? You'll get better, because these systemic reviews of these situations, as recently as 2024, show that over 75% of lumbar disc herniations spontaneously resorb with conservative care or even no care. And think about what that means is your body is going to break down, and it's going to remove that herniated disc material, and then it's going to be healed, and then it will be fine. You may still have some sensitivities sometimes, but the body goes through a healing process just like with anything else. It's just slow, and that's why people get discouraged. Unfortunately, the internet, especially guys like this, will lead you to believe that disc herniations create permanent damage and some sort of permanent problem in your body, and that's not the case at all. In many cases, it's just a temporary, most cases, not many, most, vast majority of cases, a temporary biological event, we'll call it, that happens and your body has a plan for it. So the bigger problem isn't the disc at all, it's what happens after the diagnosis if something like this happens. So if you do end up, in the rare instance, getting injured when you have during a deadlift, a lot of it depends on who you go talk to. And many times the person will say, hey, don't bend, don't lift, quit deadlifting altogether. We need to protect your back. We need to avoid loading it. And for the rest of eternity, you need to be careful because of this disc injury you had. And what ends up happening is you take a big hit. You follow that advice and you end up getting less strong. You lower all your capacities. You end up becoming more fearful of doing anything that involves your spine. And then you just become more sensitive. And then we all just turn around and blame the fact that you have a disc herniation that will heal and will get better. So this tweet that I saw it on, it was coming back to some strong men that have been injured in the past. And this is where people are going to completely miss the point. Elite strongmen are not evidence of deadlifts being dangerous. They're pushing the very limits of what a person's body is capable of, and that's where risk increases the closer you are in anything, the closer you are to pushing the limit of what the body can do. So if a Formula One driver is out there crashing their car, that doesn't make driving a car dangerous. If an NFL player gets hurt, that doesn't make sprinting around dangerous. If a strongman gets injured in a deadlift event, that doesn't make the deadlift dangerous. The body does not care if you're deadlifting. The body cares about the stress you're applying to it and whether you're giving yourself time to recover and adapt. So people don't get injured from the deadlift. They get injured when the demand exceeds their preparation. And that's the thing that gets missed in the nuances of these conversations. So the most damaging side of rehabilitation is the belief that enough screening will somehow prevent an injury. And that's another big problem that people run into. And find me a perfect movement screen, find me a perfect asymmetry test, find me some sort of perfect injury predictor in the literature, and you can't, because it doesn't exist. The performance of the human body is too complex. There's too many things going on to create some sort of predictive indicators. So you don't need some sort of full body forensic investigation by a professional physical therapist before you touch a barbell. You need to maybe get a little coaching on your technique if you don't know what you're doing, and then progressive loading, intelligent programming, enough time to recover, and consistent training, and that's all you need. So the spine is not fragile. The discs in your back are not ticking time bombs, and the body is not waiting to explode on you because your glute medius happens to be 7% weaker on one side. That's just fear mongering. That has nothing to do with science. And the deadlift is not dangerous. Poor programming is dangerous. Fear-based messaging from your healthcare provider is dangerous. Convincing people that they're just one repetition away from a catastrophe is dangerous. So the goal is not to find every possible reason that you might get hurt. The goal is to become strong enough so most of those things don't matter.